The character helped redefine how professional women were portrayed on television, showing strength without sacrificing emotion. Susan brought a calm authority to the role, commanding attention without force. The series became one of the most respected dramas of its era, and her performance solidified her reputation as a serious actress. This success also allowed her to step away from the shadow of her earlier fame and be recognized for her talent rather than her past. L.A. Law remains one of the defining achievements of her career and a milestone in television history. Later, career and creative challenges. Susan Dey was born on December 10, 1952, in Pekin, Illinois, and her early years were shaped by both promise and loss. After her mother passed away when Susan was young, she moved with her family to New York, where her father worked as a newspaper editor. Growing up in a home filled with books, deadlines, and conversations about the world gave Susan a thoughtful and observant nature. Before she ever imagined acting as a career, she found success as a teenage model, appearing in popular magazines that celebrated her natural beauty and quiet confidence. Those modeling jobs opened doors she never expected, and soon casting directors noticed her gentle presence and expressive eyes. What began as a temporary opportunity slowly turned into a life-changing path that would carry her into one of the most recognizable television roles of the 1970s and shape the future of her career in ways she could never have predicted. Becoming Laurie Partridge and a teen icon, Susan's life changed almost overnight when she was cast as Laurie Partridge on The Partridge Family in 1970. At just 17 years old and with no formal acting experience, she stepped into a role that would make her a household name. Laurie was kind, intelligent, and musically gifted, qualities that reflected Susan's own quiet personality. Viewers connected with her sincerity, and soon she became a symbol of youthful innocence during a time when television families represented comfort and optimism. The show's popularity turned Susan into a teen idol, admired by millions across the world. Yet behind the scenes, the sudden fame was overwhelming. Long filming days, constant attention from fans, and the pressure to maintain a wholesome image were difficult for someone so young. Still, Susan handled her success with dignity, learning quickly how to balance personal growth with professional responsibility in an industry that never slowed down. Chemistry with David Cassidy and public fascination. One of the most talked about elements of The Partridge Family was the chemistry between Susan Dey and her co-star, David Cassidy. On screen, their performances felt warm and natural, convincing audiences that the Partridge siblings were a real family. Fans became fascinated with their connection, often imagining a romance that extended beyond television. Susan later explained that while they shared a close bond, it was shaped by youth, friendship, and the pressures of fame rather than a simple love story. David was already accustomed to show business life, while Susan was still learning how to navigate it. Their relationship grew out of long hours spent rehearsing lines and recording songs, creating a sense of trust and familiarity. What viewers saw as romance was actually two young people trying to make sense of sudden celebrity together, leaning on each other for support in an unfamiliar and intense world. Leaving the teen idol image behind. When The Partridge Family ended in 1974, Susan faced a difficult challenge, redefining herself beyond the image of Laurie Partridge. Determined to be taken seriously as an actress, she pursued roles that were more complex and emotionally demanding. Her performance in the television movie Mary Jane Harper Cried last night surprised critics and audiences alike, proving that she had depth and range far beyond her earlier work. Throughout the late 1970s and early 1980s, Susan continued choosing projects that reflected maturity and courage. These roles allowed her to explore characters facing real struggles and personal conflict, helping her grow as an artist. She was no longer the teenage daughter from a musical sitcom, but a performer capable of portraying vulnerability and strength. This period of reinvention marked an important turning point, showing her commitment to authenticity rather than comfort or nostalgia. A new chapter with L.A. Law. Susan's career reached new heights when she joined the cast of L.A. Law in 1986 as Grace Van Owen. The role transformed her public image and earned her critical acclaim, including a Golden Globe Award and multiple Emmy nominations. Grace was intelligent, driven, and compassionate, reflecting a more mature and confident Susan Dey. In the early 1990s, Susan explored new directions by appearing on Saturday Night Live and later starring in the sitcom Love and War. These projects showed her willingness to experiment with comedy and live performance, areas very different from courtroom drama. Although Love and War did not last long, Susan handled the transition with professionalism and grace. Rather than retreating, she focused on projects that carried emotional weight and social relevance. One of her most powerful performances came in the television film Lies and Lullabies, where she portrayed a woman facing difficult personal circumstances with honesty and courage. The role demonstrated her ability to shed glamour and embrace realism, earning praise for its sensitivity. Susan's later career choices reflected a desire to tell meaningful stories rather than simply remain visible, proving her dedication to growth and purpose over fame alone. Marriage, motherhood, and private life. Away from the spotlight, Susan Day's personal life played a significant role in shaping her priorities. Her first marriage in the 1970s brought stability during a period of career transition, and she later became a devoted mother to her daughter, Sarah. Motherhood deeply influenced the decisions she made, both professionally and personally. In 1988, she married television producer Bernard Safransky, and together they chose a quieter life away from constant public attention. Their relationship was built on mutual respect and shared values rather than celebrity. Over time, Susan stepped back from acting, preferring privacy and family life to the demands of Hollywood. Unlike many public figures, she did not seek constant visibility, instead embracing a peaceful existence centered on home and relationships. This shift reflected her belief that fulfillment did not depend solely on career success, but on balance and emotional well-being. Reflecting on David Cassidy with honesty. In her later years, Susan has spoken openly and thoughtfully about her relationship with David Cassidy. She has described their connection as one shaped by youth, admiration, and the unusual circumstances of fame. Susan admitted that she once had a crush on David, which felt natural given the closeness they shared on set. However, she also acknowledged that they were both overwhelmed by attention and expectations. When personal feelings became public through interviews and headlines, misunderstandings arose that caused emotional distance. Rather than placing blame, Susan now views those years with compassion. She recognizes that they were both young and unprepared for the intensity of celebrity life. Her reflections are not stories of bitterness, but of growth and understanding, showing how time can soften old disappointments and replace them with perspective and empathy, regret, forgiveness, and memory. Susan has also shared that she wished she and David had spoken again before his passing in 2017. The idea of unfinished conversations stayed with her, reminding her how fragile connections can be when shaped by fame and distance. She expressed regret not out of anger, but out of a desire for closure and mutual understanding. Over the years, the hurt she once felt transformed into acceptance. She came to see David not as the figure of public fascination, but as a fellow young performer trying to survive an extraordinary experience. Their shared memories of music, long filming days, and youthful excitement remain important to her. Susan's reflections highlight the emotional complexity behind television images that once seemed simple. Her story is not about conflict, but about learning to forgive the past and honor the moments that truly mattered. A story of grace and human truth. At 72, Susan Day's truth about David Cassidy is ultimately a story of youth, fame, and human emotion, rather than scandal. She has chosen grace over resentment and reflection over regret. Her journey shows how time brings clarity and how understanding replaces judgment. The bond she shared with David will always be part of her life story, shaped by laughter, challenges, and shared growth under public scrutiny. Susan's honesty reminds fans that behind every beloved television character stands a real person with hopes, fears, and feelings. Her words offer a quiet lesson about compassion and memory, proving that even relationships marked by misunderstanding can be remembered with warmth. In the end, Susan Day's reflections are not about what went wrong, but about what was learned, making her story one of maturity, gratitude, and enduring humanity.